The starting point of your soldiering, when they say, attention, and you hold your legs, you have made yourself a soldier.
Then I said, now I know you want me to get saved, so I am going to get saved, but give me time. Can you imagine telling God, if you ask him for something, can you imagine him telling you, give me time?
I praise God that I was condemned, because if I wasn't condemned by man, then consequently I would have been condemned by God. But because of that human condemnation, that led me to my salvation.
It is yet another beautiful moment that you have been waiting for, and this is Edwin Austin Mukalazu, and I am grateful that your eyes on Church of Uganda Family TV and on my story. My story is the home of successful and life-changing, life-turning, transforming testimonies that you shouldn't miss any single Sunday. And we are glad that you've been anxiously waiting for us. Here we are to fulfill our pledge. And like we promised you last week, just in case you missed last week's episode, we are going to give you a highlight of what we talked about. And from the highlight, we shall be back with our guest. He's already with us.
I used to earn 318 shillings. 318. That was money. It was a lot of money. And but until this money is finished, going to class was difficult for me.
Hey.
Yeah.
So you spend it in drinking?
Just.
Here we are with the second part of Right Reverend Bishop Joel Obetia's story. And like we promised you, we are continuing with where we started from. So last week we ended when you're newly married. Now we have the Bagole.
Yes.
Yes, so
Yes.
Reverend, before we actually go ahead, first greet our viewers.
Yes, yes. Greetings to you in the mighty name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Yes, yes. Thank
We
you.
bless the Lord that
Amen.
we have you even today to, to complete your story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I left you when I just gotten married.
Yes.
To this beautiful woman who is now my wife of 34 years. We have been together.
34 years in marriage.
34 years,
wow.
Yes. 34 years in marriage. We have got 5 children, 2 boys and 3 girls. The 2 boys are now married. One is a pastor in Moyo Town, where next to the school where I was supposed to go.
The school that you boycotted.
That I boycotted, and now he is the pastor of Moyo Town Parish. The other one is a lawyer and is in Jinja, just across here. He got married last October 30th last year, and to the daughter of my archdeacon, of an archdeacon. Yes, I was the bishop. She is the mother is one of the lady archdeacons in our diocese of Madi West Nile. And so they are so Naman is a lawyer. Mark is a pastor. And our first daughter, which I'm praying that God will give a husband to, is living in Barara. They are having, she's a community psychologist, counselor, and she is in Barara, and God is using them to help people live well and to counsel people and so on. So they are beginning a counseling ministry in Mbarara City with her friend with whom they went to school together in Makerere. Yeah. The other two are with us. One is finishing a degree in humanitarian studies in Uganda Christian University, and the last born is in Gayaza.
Still in secondary.
Yeah, still in secondary. So yeah, that is my family.
So, Reverend, to get back from last week's
Yeah,
episode,
yeah,
you had actually told us that you didn't want to go
yeah,
to a Bible
yeah,
college, a
yeah,
theological college.
yeah,
Yet
Yeah.
this lady who
Yeah.
later became your wife
Yeah.
had this passion
Yeah.
to go for, and she had actually been ordained.
yeah.
And was this the passion that you also now chose to go back?
Yes, somehow this rubbed in me, and because we were two people in the house, one was a reverend, and the other one just a preacher.
An evangelist.
Yeah, an evangelist. It worked well for a few years, but when I was transferred by Life Ministry to come to Kampala, it uprooted my wife completely from her ministry.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, yeah. You know, she was working as the leader of the English service in the cathedral, and so we were together. But when I was transferred to by Life Ministry to Kampala, I had to come with her, and in Kampala, it was difficult to find a church where she could serve and things like that. And Life Ministry was just a preaching ministry. So I brought her, and um, she was just here. I could see she was miserable. She was very miserable. So 1988, 1989, 1990, we were in Kampala, and I was busy doing the Jesus films in different languages, and recording the one for Lugara, and so on. These things happened. So I began to reason that I am busy and I'm happy, but my wife is here, and just at home, she had her collar on and everything, and doing nothing, almost doing nothing.
All her
Yeah.
passion was ruined
Was ruined.
because of marriage.
Yeah, because of this marriage, and she gave up so much, really. Yes, we were happy trying to do a lot of things, but I could see she was very miserable in the house, and so. But all along, God has been working on my conscience. Um, the bishop, first of all, there was Bishop Wani when he became the Archbishop. Bishop Remilia he became the bishop, but he worked for 10 years and retired, and then Bishop Caleb became the bishop. But when I was working with him in West Nile, he made me the mission coordinator, and of course we did a lot of work with him. He was a very good preacher, and so one day he said, I was also director of music in the diocese. Yes, I was a director of music in the diocese, and I could play the trumpet. I could, and so there were some trumpets which had broken down, and he said if I was willing, I could come with him while he was coming to the House of Bishops. That year, Yono Koth was going to retire, and they wanted to select a new archbishop. Yeah. So he said I should come, I should bring the trumpets that were broken in order that they could be repaired here. There was somebody, I think in Nakulave somewhere, who used to repair trumpets. And so it was June 19, eh, 1980. Yeah, yeah. No, it wasn't yet 90. It was 86.
Yeah.
It was 86. So we were coming, and we were in a Land Rover. 10 of us, 9 of us, I think. They were the bishop and the driver, and there were three in the middle, and there were some 4 people behind. So we were coming to Kampala. Now, when we passed the bridge, in fact, at the bridge, we stopped in Pakwach for a brief moment, and the bishop was saying, let's do quickly, let's eat something quickly. So he bought sodas and a few things. We had something to eat. He said, it is time, let's go. So we came in the car. As we were driving with the car, when we were about 20 miles away from Pakwach, I think I was asleep. Then all of a sudden I heard the bishop shouting, the driver should move slowly or something like that. So I woke up, but within no time we found the car was rolling. The car rolled, and I found myself thrown out on the road, and I could see the bishop under the car. The car had fallen on its side, but the bishop had fallen into a ditch, but the car was covering the ditch. So I crawled. I remember my chest was paining and so forth. So I crawled and held his hand, and I tried to pull him, and I pulled him out, but I was feeling a lot of pain. I think the car just rolled over me, and I broke some ribs, 3 ribs. I broke them, but I was able to see the bishop, and I held the bishop's hand. I said, Bishop, how are you? He said, no, I'm not okay. But I could see his legs were facing a different direction and things like that. Either one of the legs was broken or something. But I pulled him. Then some soldiers came, and got us out, and then put us in another car. And when we reached Pakwach town, we were put in another room, and the bishop was taken to another room. Then all of a sudden we heard the bishop had died. Now I said, wow, this is serious, God. You need to take control. I had promised God that when I am older, maybe I will join. Or if the church became better, I will join.
Better as in
Yeah, in terms of welfare and things like that. And so I asked God. I said, now this is the bishop. He was young, he was good, he was a good preacher, and he was doing good things. Now, if you can take him away like that, how is this? Yes, the bishop died, and I was left with a lot of question marks in my mind. But after that is when I left West Nile and we came to Kampala with my wife. And I could see my wife was very miserable, and so. Meanwhile, another bishop was put there. It was called Ephraim. Ephraim was very innocent and very saintly. He was, he was still strong enough, but he was very, very saintly. and I admire him very greatly. He was deep in terms of spirituality and things like that. So I was here. So 1979, 1989, uh, I think it was January, Bishop Ephraim comes to Kampala, and we all went, people of West Nile went to meet with him in Makerere, in St. Francis, Makerere. We went there. So the bishop was preaching in Revelation, saying, I want to make all things new. I'm going to make all things new. We didn't know he had come to bid farewell to us. And so I said, now that God is going to make things new, and everything is getting new, but he put me aside when lunchtime came. He took me aside and said, Joel, I would like you to come to Mukono. I want you to be ordained. I don't know whether I'm going back. I'm not sure. Look at my hands. The doctor's saying I'm sick. The hand was looking yellowish, and his eyes were yellowish. And he said, I am very sick. I'm not sure whether I'm going to go back. But I said, no, you are going back. You are going back. God has made you the bishop at this time. And
Preaching
when,
hope to
yeah,
them.
yeah. So we will come and join you maybe later. And so in my mind, I said, yes, this bishop is good, he's saintly, he's wonderful. He's going to make things new, and God was going to use him. That evening, yes, he went to Zambia hospital. A week later, when I went to see him there, he repeated that call. He said, I want you to go to Mukono, and I want you to become a priest, and I want to ordain you. I laughed and I said, well, you are still there. Things are going to be okay. Yeah, you will do. We didn't know. 3 days after me, the bishop went into coma. Because I prayed with him, said that you have to go back and do the things that are necessary and make the church better. That then we can join. And 3 days later, he was in coma, and I went back again. I went and I was just talking to God and asking God to do something. I held his hand and I prayed. I said, God, help the bishop to go back and do these things because we need him. A few days later, we had the bishop had died. I was so shattered.
Two
I was,
bishops
yeah,
dying
two
in your
bishops
sight.
just like that. Then I said, God, why is it that you are taking these people? Whom are you not going to use in order to change this church? We would like to join a better church than it is now. So God did not answer my prayer. God took this way. So there was this now, the question marks and how God was taking away some of these precious lives. And so God spoke to me and said, yes, you want the church to become better, but who is going to make the church better? The people you said were going to make the church better have now died. So after Bishop Ephraim, Bishop Enoch comes. He had been away for a long time. Bishop Enoch was lived 17 years in America, and he was made the bishop. He had come. In the 17 years he was away, a lot of things had changed, and so, and all of a sudden we began to see voices and conflicts are beginning to appear in the diocese of Madi West Nile. And then one of the archdeacons rebelled against the bishop, and life became very difficult. So the conflict was so bitter that the church was falling apart. Because Arua Archdeaconry is the diocesan headquarters in the center of Arua Archdeaconry, but the Archdeacon of Arua is the one who was in conflict with the bishop. So now, what do you call it as a diocese if the center is now in rebellion?
Yeah.
So you find the bishop will come from here, with the police escort, will come through Arua and then go to Maracha, go to Madi, go to other places. You found the things were just difficult. It was difficult to do ministry, to do things, and Arua is a very powerful archdeaconry, and the money, much of the money is generated from there. So life was difficult for the bishop. Life was so difficult, and so this was the diocese which was now falling apart. Things were difficult, things were hard. The bishop couldn't enjoy his ministry, so this was it. So when Bishop Enoch was going to retire, we prayed. We prayed to God and said, God, please, not us. Not us. Because it is difficult to do this work. And so, I missed out one part. In 90 September, I came here and inquired what I
At the
could do.
theological college?
Yes, I came to the theological college, and I met with the Bishop Mari. I met with the Reverend Nyagu. I said yes. So they said, okay, if you want to apply, because you have been away, you have been away from the church for a long time. Since you are HSC, you have done different things. So we would like you to sit as a mature entrance exam. So I think it was in July. So I had that exams, and the results came out positive, and I was admitted here. But I had not told my wife. I had not told my wife. My wife was just there. So around August, when these results came, I was called here, and it was said that I had done well, and they have already admitted me. So I ran to the bishop in Bishop Enoch. I ran to him in Arua, said, yes, I've been admitted. Can I join the theological college? He said, yes, you need to. And so they gave me the go-ahead. So when I took the letter and gave it to my wife, we were living in Lunguja. We were living in Lunguja, and I passed the letter to my wife. I said, this is my admission. She had no idea that I was thinking about joining theological college, and she was so happy. I could see that she was.
The expression.
Yeah, she was happy, and yet she was really baffled that I could do something like that behind her back.
Without her knowledge.
Yeah. And so, with my 3 children, that time, no, 2 children, we had the 2 boys. With my 2 boys, we left Lunguja and we were taken to Ntao. On the other side, we were living in the boys' quarters of one of the university, one of the college houses which was there. So we stayed there for almost a year, and then we were brought here in Ovid, one of the houses here. It is now the house, the office of the guild president. It was house number 8. That was where our daughter who is in Barara was born, and we joined them. So we enjoyed our time here for theoretical training. We enjoyed. I really I I enjoyed the teaching, and so of course there were some very difficult teachers who were here, and who
And strict.
yeah, they were very strict, and they laughed at some of us who said we were saved. They laughed at we laughed at we they laughed at us who said we were saved, and but somehow we lived on, we went on, and when we finished here, I did well, I passed well, and so on. So we all went to Arua. I was ordained in 1990. So from 1990 to 1992, I finished here, and then in 1993, January, I was ordained as a deacon, and then 1994, I was priested. But in that year, that was the year when it also changed for women. Women used to be ordained only deacons. They were not priested. They were just, first of all, women were commissioned to be, commissioned workers, deaconesses.
Commissioned work.
Yeah, commissioned. Then they ordained them as deacons. My wife was ordained as a deacon in 1985. So 1994, 1993, this thing was lifted, that women can now be ordained. So when I was being priested, my wife was also being priested.
Oh, on the same day?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were now full priests. It was
So two
it was
deacons
wonderful.
come to the church,
Yeah.
and they live as reverends.
Yeah. And so we left as reverends, and so it was wonderful. So so we began to do the work together. I was made mission coordinator, but my wife still worked in the cathedral
As an interpreter?
no, she was she was a curate, but in charge of the English service. She was in charge of the English service. So I have always lived in my wife's parish, and she would use me in her parish. So that is our life of service. So then in 19
Now, I'm looking at a situation where you're posted to a different place and your wife also at a different place. How did you manage such a situation?
The bishop was good. The bishop kept us together. He kept me as a diocesan worker, as a mission coordinator, and then my wife in the cathedral. So I lived in my wife's parish while working in the diocese. And so somehow, it has worked well, and she had always provided the house, so we would be. So I lived in my wife's house when I was. So in 1986, 1996, then I received a letter from somebody I did not know. The person introduced himself. I am Bishop John Taylor. I taught in Mukono from 1945 to 1954. 1945, 1954.
Before you were even...
Yes, before I was born. And but I have been coming to Uganda regularly. I've been coming. And in 1996, when I think Nkoyoyo was now made the Archbishop, he had come to retreat Nkoyoyo. Then John Taylor is the person who constructed some of these buildings. He constructed the staff houses, the ordnance houses down where my daughter was born. He constructed. He did much of some of these things, and so he talked to Bishop Madi. He said, "What can we do to help you?" He said, if it were possible, please help train for us somebody at a good level who can come and teach here and in the area of worship and liturgy. And so when Taylor went to England, he wrote to me. He said, "Reverend Joel, you do not know me, but my name is John Taylor. You might have seen my picture in the Principal's Hall. I was here in 1945 to 1954. But when I came back in 1996, some of the things we did with the students were still there, but we need somebody to come. So I've got a scholarship for you to come to England and do some studies." This is from nowhere. I'm here with torn trousers and with bad shoes in Arua.
Now someone is inviting you to London.
To London. It is that, to London.
Bishop, at that very point when you're invited to London, you said we're going to start after the commercial break.
Do you know that you can now enjoy great enriching shows anywhere through the Family TV app? Here is how to download it. Open Play Store on your phone. Search for the Family TV app. Click Install. After installing it, open it and enjoy enriching content anywhere, everywhere, anytime. Family TV, enriching lives.
The starting point of your sojourning, when they say, "Attention," and you hold your legs, you have made yourself a soldier.
Then I said, now I know you want me to get saved, so I am going to get saved, but give me time. Can you imagine telling God, if you ask him for something, can you imagine him telling you, give me time?
I praise God that I was condemned, because if I wasn't condemned by man, then consequently I would have been condemned by God. But because of that human condemnation, that led me to my salvation.
I welcome you back from the commercial break. You are watching My Story. Edwin Austin Colors is my name. And we are glad that you love Church of Uganda Family TV and you love My Story. We are with Bishop Joel Obetia, taking us through his story. And now someone from Arua, someone from Madi, has been invited to go to London for studies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we are back.
Yes.
Now, how did you feel in the first place? Wasn't this a shock to you?
It was. It was a big shock.
Did you even have a passport?
No, I didn't have it. I think I had, because I used the passport to go to Nairobi. I had a passport, and this was how this was very helpful, because when this letter I saw, I said, now what does it take to get to London? And so he said, well, I hope you have a valid passport. So I checked. I found that yes, I could.
I'm eligible.
Yes, I could travel. But it was a big shock. It was a big shock because from nowhere, and this letter just introduces the bishop to me now. Because John Taylor, when he was warden here, he did quite a lot of things. But when he went back, he became the Secretary General of CMS.
Church Missionary Society.
Yes, he became a Secretary General for Church Missionary Society and worked well. And then he was elected Bishop of Winchester. He became the Bishop of Winchester. And Winchester is the diocese with which our diocese is linked. And so now when all these things work together, it was lovely. Then I said, yeah, I can go. Because in 1986, when John came here, I had gone on a mission with one archdeacon and two lay people. We went to 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 Nottingham, not Nottingham, but we went to Winchester, and Andover Deanery is a deanery of Winchester, and John was the bishop of this place, but he had already retired.
Yeah.
He was now living in Oxford. So he asked me to come over and go to Nottingham, to St. John's College, Nottingham, to do Master of Arts in Mission and Ministry. So that is where I spent 1 year. So after 1 year, when I finished there, he said I need to come through Oxford to see him personally. So I came to Oxford, and I came to John's house, and John and Peggy, and we had a wonderful time. But as I was there, he took me to Oxford Center for Mission Studies. And those people, after they interviewed me, they said, yes, I can do further research. Now towards PhD. So I stayed in Oxford for 10 days, and then left to come and join my family here. But then, so in which year was this? 97 now.
97, yeah.
This was 97. So 97, I passed through Oxford to come back to Arua. So 98, in March, I was invited back now to Oxford to begin my research. And so I went back, and then he took me into a convent. It's an Anglican convent. This convent is just walking distance from his house. So I was living with the All Saints Sisters of the Poor. They were nuns, Anglican nuns, just like the Catholic nuns. But they have a hospital, and they have a place where they feed the street people, and they have a place where they make uniforms for clergy and things like that. So I joined in the Oxford Center for Mission Studies. I was living in All Saints Convent with these sisters, and we would help with the serving food to the homeless people and so, and that gave me some money also to help myself in Oxford itself. So I began my studies there in 98. I'll be there for 6 months, and then when it is getting cold, I come back. I come to the family, because we couldn't go as a whole family.
Yeah.
So it was 98, 99, 2000. I was in this place. Then 2001. Then when I'm going now to finish my research, my work, John falls sick. The bishop falls sick. He had traveled to Israel with some people for pilgrimage, and then when he came back, he began to have problems with his backbone, and they discovered that he had a tumor in the back. And so in February, John dies. It was tragic. It was difficult for me. but he had made the arrangements for my scholarship and everything. And I continued with my studies, and later that year, I submit my dissertation, and but my supervisor and my external examiner was on sabbatical leave. He was in America. Was another bishop. He was in America, and so we just couldn't do anything. So I left there without. I defended my work, but I left without knowing exactly what was going to happen. So when this external examiner came, he looked at my work. He said, "I need to do these corrections and this like this and this." So I worked on that. So this was now 2002 or 2003, I think. It was coming to 2003. Then I corrected these things in 2004. They gave me my degree, and yeah, they gave me my PhD, but I couldn't go for the graduation. So that year passed, and then but it came to pass when in 2008, when I was called now to Leeds University, because I was in Oxford, but I was working for Leeds University. So after that, then Leeds called me back to graduate, and I graduated in December 2007, I think. So yeah, I think it was in January 2008. Then I came back, but. When I submitted my things there in 2002, the university called me here. So I came, yes, so I started teaching. I started teaching in 2002. In February, I started teaching here. So I taught in February, then 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. Then in 2005, June the 3rd.
On the Martyrs' Day.
On Martyrs' Day. That was when I was elected the Bishop of Madi, West Nile. I was elected bishop.
Now, how does this come about? And why on 3rd June?
Yes, the House of Bishops had come to celebrate the Martyrs' Day, but they sat on 2nd late in matters in Namgongo. They used that opportunity to do the House of Bishops, and me and Bishop of Western Kole, the retired bishop of Western Kole. What was his name? What is this? Katonende, Yona.
Yeah.
So we were elected on the same day, on the 2nd of June. Then the next day the bishops came back for the Martyrs celebration. So we were elected. But I had gone to London. I went on 29th of May.
So you were not around?
No, I wasn't. So when when my name came, it was, I think, my neighbor here, Professor Kalenjo.
You are still residing here?
I used to reside in house number 4, but Kalenjo, I think he was teaching around also. So he rang me in London. He rang me in Oxford there. He said, "Oh, Bishop, you are the bishop elected." It was really, it was a big shock. It was a big shock. So I was elected in June, and the consecration was set for November 27th. It was set for November 27th. So when I finished that visit, I came back. And my wife was distressed because the news we were hearing from home were terrible. The war, the fighting, and all these things were terrible. So we prayed. Of course, we were arguing. We were arguing about this. Can we go? Can we not? And so on. So when I was elected, when I was there, uh, then John's wife Peggy calls me. He said, "Are you around?" I said, "Yes, I'm in I'm in the convent." Then he said, "You need to come to my house." So when I came to her house, I found she had laid some of the robes. He had laid some of the bishop's robes on the bed. He said, John, when he was dying, he gave these things to me. He said, Peggy, I know one day uh, Joel might become a bishop. If he becomes a bishop, these robes here, give them to him. So he gave me a cope, the big dress, he gave me a mitre, he gave me some of the bishop's robes and things like that. So I said, how did this happen? That he began to plan for me becoming a bishop before even I had any idea about it. And so this was the robes that I used as a bishop. Of course, I bought some, but the cope, the mitre, and the chimera, this one I made, but there was the rochet, which came from the bishop, which he had given to me. He gave me some of because the cup is almost 1,000 pounds, and so I was very happy that he could. But his robe, if you look at it, it is almost like the backcloth of Uganda. It was almost like a backcloth because John was so immersed into the work, the ministry in Buganda. He had more friends in Buganda than even in England, and some of the things he had done for the church in Uganda were so amazing. And when he was made the bishop of Winchester, he made a robe which was almost like backcloth. Almost like backcloth. In fact, I show this to you, you will be surprised. And it was that kind of thing. So yes, so these were some of the people God used in my life. Bishop John Taylor, Bishop Enoch Drati, and the past bishops, particularly the ones who died abruptly, one in a car accident, another one from hepatitis B. And so these were the kind of people. They made me who I am.
So Bishop, after being consecrated, you've always desired to see a change in the diocese, the Madi diocese. And now, what prompts you now to retire earlier than expected?
We set certain goals to God. We said, God, if you can, in fact, it was in fear, if you can allow us to cover 10 years, we will retire peacefully. And so when when we were consecrated bishop, we began with a lot of energy, particularly in the area of reconciliation. We wanted to reconcile the diocese, and the diocese should be one. Of course, it was difficult. We were insulted, we were almost beaten and so on, but we stood our ground and we said, no, If the church cannot forgive as Christ has forgiven us, then it is not church. So our themes were geared towards reconciliation. Yes, God brought about reconciliation. The church began to work as one. The church began to, you know, we worked on some of the policies. We found a constitution, one-page constitution, written by one of the missionaries as the diocesan constitution for the diocese. So we set up a committee that right now we have a full constitution. We have some of the policies of the diocese. We set them straight. We began to work on clergy welfare. When the year we went, 2005, the year we went, the whole diocesan budget of that year was 188 million. Imagine, a whole diocese, you have to pay the bishop, you have to pay the archdeacons, you have to pay 188 million. This is a whole diocese. It was, the poverty was real. It was really, and the pastors could not retire. Pastors, because you retire to nothing. It's better you eat chicken and do nothing, and let the church feed you. So there was no hope. So we began to, to work on these things. So we worked on policies, how pastors are going to pay, how pastors are going to retire, how pastors are going to, how we will pay gratuity even to pastors. Some things which were non-existent. So for gratuity, if you are going to retire, we take 10% of your salary, your existing salary, multiply it by 12, and then multiply by the years you have worked in church. And some of these things came to very good, gratuity. But because people were coming late to church, somebody works as a headmaster for a long time. When he is retired, now he said, "Bishop, can you ordain my old age?" And you ordain that person. And he looks old, but he's young in ministry. So after 5 years, he finally retires. And if you calculate this one, it comes to a few hundred shillings. Sometimes, But it was something at least people were retiring to. So we began to work on some of these things, and then we began to attract young people into ministry. So right now we have very many young people with masters, many young people with degrees, and some have got the working on their PhDs, and now they are almost finishing. So this is so we began to enjoy our ministry. Of course, it was hard work, which was so when we had worked for 9 years in the diocese, one day I asked my wife, "Are we going to retire after 10 years?" My wife looked at me and said, "Why not? We asked God to give us 10 years. Now we need to. I said, "How can we tell the diocese that?" Of course, people were enjoying our ministry. People were happy. So at 3, I couldn't sleep. So I had written my charge to the synod. I'd written it, but I left that part empty. So I got up and wrote the last part and said, after next year, we are going to retire, and we need a new bishop to come in our place. When I read that last part to the synod, there was 7 minutes silence. And then one man just stood up and said, "If this is God's will, let it be. But Bishop, are you hiding something from us? Are you not well? Are you, you know, do you have diabetes, or are you, what is happening? Why have you kept us like this? I said, no, we are okay. There's no problem. But this is what we want you to. And so it was hard for people to accept. So we, then one layperson said, if this is God's will, let it be so. Let us accept this, and at this time. So it means I had to bring this to the Archbishop and ask for his permission, because I was 59. I was 59. We became bishop at 48, and so 59. I asked that the diocese can release me, and yes, they agreed. And the House of Bishops agreed, and so we began to plan for our retirement. And on because it was supposed to be 2016, but because of the activities of the diocese, which are always, the church is like a big ship. You turn full, but it will still go the same direction for 5 miles, and then you can see it turning. So it was like that. So
Well, Bishop,
yes,
as you wind up,
yeah,
there's one basic I've acknowledged in all your story from the
Yes.
time you married.
yeah,
Everything, you're with your wife, and no wonder you've been together for now 34 years.
yes.
But when you read papers today and newspapers, there is a lot of issues with marriage and family, divorce after
Yeah,
divorce,
yeah.
courts and all that. So what are some of those things that you would really tell our viewers, because this is family TV,
Yeah.
that maybe they can lean on to strengthen their marriages, or the pillars that can really help them out in sorting out issues in their marriages?
Yeah. Marriage is a very difficult thing. Two strangers, two people born from different families coming together. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And therefore, marriage is a miracle that only God can perform. And when two people agree to marry, and they have God in their center, I think they have a very high chance of succeeding in their marriage. Sometimes I wed people, I ask them, have you disagreed? Have you quarreled? And have you almost given up this plan for marriage? Some people say, oh, for us, we are made for one another. No. When it is like that, one day I asked, you go and disagree first. When you disagree and come back again, then let me marry you people. Let me marry. Because marriage is not about yes, yes, no, no. Marriage is hard work. It is hard work. You have to work at it. And when you disagree, when you walk different ways, but you come back again and reconcile, then you are ready to marry. Then you are ready to marry. Some people think marriage is about happiness. No. Marriage is about holiness, where you have to walk with one another in transparency. You have to walk, you have to ask for forgiveness, you have to say sorry even to your wife. And so this is it, and we are not saints, but God has helped us. If it were not God, a lot of things would have gone wrong. But God is faithful. He is the most faithful person we can put in our marriage. And while around Satan has beaten this drum of holy of happiness, because you are not always happy. You will be disappointed, and so when you are disappointed, whom do you turn to? Whom do you, where do you find your happiness? Yeah. So because Satan has put it that marriage should be happy, you find now pastors, when they are not happy, then you find you say, I'm not happy in this one, therefore I'm walking away. No, marriage is about holiness, and you are not happy. It doesn't mean the marriage has fallen apart. No, you come back again, and you talk things over, and you walk together. You hold your hands, and you walk on that way together. And we are trusting God that our remaining life will be finished together, and we will also see each other. The good thing in heaven is that you will know, this is my wife. Even though the very issues you do here cannot be done there, but you know, this is my wife. This is my.
We believe the same.
Yes.
Oh, well,
sometimes some people will go to heaven and say, "This is my former wife." This is, it becomes ridiculous.
Wow. We pray that it doesn't happen to us.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Yes,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are so grateful, Bishop, for this.
I'm going to pray for you to have good marriage.
Amen.
Yes.
Specifically me and Jonah,
Amen.
my
Yes.
producer.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're so grateful. Thank you so
God
much for this
bless you.
time.
Amen.
And we are indeed glad.
We
are indeed encouraged and strengthened.
Amen.
Yeah. May God richly bless you so much for this time.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for loving us. Thank you so much for choosing Church of Uganda Family TV this particular evening and My Story as the program. We are so grateful and glad that you've been watching. Edwin Austin Mukalazi is my name. We've been with Bishop Joel Obetia. I've worked with Jonah Jal, the producer, Bantam in transmission, and may God bless you until we meet again next time.
Amen.
The starting point of your sojourning, when they say attention and you hold your legs, you have made yourself a soldier.
Then I said, now I know you want me to get saved, so I am going to get saved, but give me time. Can you imagine telling God, where if you ask him for something, can you imagine him telling you, give me time?
I praise God that I was condemned, because if I wasn't condemned by man, then consequently I would have been condemned by God. But because of that human condemnation, that led me to my salvation.